Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Majestic View Show. The Majestic View is a show where we empower you to raise the bar in your health, in your wellness, in your finance, and in your lifestyle. And I am Zach here with a majestic view from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And today we're flipping the tables a little bit. We have one of our co-hosts, Pamela D. Marshall, and she released a book. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to give her the platform to really talk about her book and briefly talk about her lifestyle. And for those of you who don't know, who Pamela D. Marshall is. She is the author of The Art of Wellness. And so she's a peace ambassador. I'm sorry, The Art of Forgiveness from the Wellness Network. And so she's a peace ambassador. And she is from a huge family in Tennessee. And she's been utilizing her life to really just kind of bring peace back into this world, back through yoga and through life skills. And she also has had a huge chunk of her life as a part of the media. And so it's been an honor to just kind of flip the script and just have her talk about, really what it's like to go from being burdened to unburdened and from bitterness to peace. So hi, Pamela, where's your majestic view
Hi,
today?
I'm Pamela D. Marshall with a majestic view from Gainesville, Florida.
Yay. Well, welcome from Gainesville, Florida, and we're happy to have you and congratulations on your book. We've been having conversations off the air of how uh, uh, full of trials it has been, and congratulations, you made it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Such a
Yeah.
pleasure to share the platform with you.
Yay. Okay, so tell us just the why. Why did you decide to, write this book?
Well, it's said that all of us have a book. You have been successful in writing a book and publishing your journey. And so I've had people say to me over the course of my life, you ought to write a book, you ought to write a book. And then after a conversation with one of my older sisters who contracted polio in the 1950s, when it was wreaking COVID kind of havoc on individuals and families. And my sister at 3 years old was one of the ones who contracted the COVID virus. And she became an artist in her 50s. So I was leaving one of her exhibits. And I asked her, how did you know that you knew how to do this stuff? And she said, when I forgave Ma and God for having polio. And so I was stunned. I was like, you were holding something against God? You were holding something against our mother? And then what does forgiving have to do with your ability to do art? But she continued talking about her journey. And I was still perplexed. I was still stuck at forgiving God and forgiving our mother. And the next morning, as I awakened, because, the universe will give us answers. We may not have them immediately, but the universe will give us answers. And as my eyes opened, I was like, Lord, who have I not forgiven? What am I leaving on this journey of life? Because I'm holding the negative energy of unforgiveness. And the Spirit said to me, you must tell the story of the art of forgiveness and be prepared to live a life of peace and healing through forgiveness. I had no idea what that meant at the time. I'm supposed to write a book. I thought I was supposed to write it specifically about her story, but it turns out it was more of my story, and I'm able to share the stories of other people and looking at forgiveness from a perspective that I've never seen it looked at before. We hear forgive and forget. We hear turn the other cheek. But the explanation for why we should be in this place of releasing and how do you get there is what the art of forgiveness is all about. It is about being in a place so that our gifts can flow. We can get degrees, we can get certifications from man, but what are the gifts that you came here with, that you are supposed to share with humanity to make this journey better for you as well as other people? Those are the gifts from the Creator. And if we are bogged down with negative energy, that gift cannot flow. Unforgiveness is like a kink in a water hose. The water is coming, but that unforgiveness is squeezing it and it can't get all the way through. So your gifts are there. but you got to release them through releasing that negative energy of unforgiveness.
I love that you used the water example because that's exactly what it is. Here we are, this is being recorded in August, Black Business Month, and there's a lot of things happening in the news, especially towards Black women. So I think that's really the missing piece here. Like, sure, we can all really do thrive with our own businesses, but until you unlock that specific trauma, there's one thing that, we can really go back to even us being ages 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 years old. Until you unlock that one thing, it's really just gonna be like your drain, your sink drain is a little bit stopped up. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, and I'm glad that you also are on the other side of healing to be able to tell your story because that's with me being, passionate about other women telling their story. That's why we have
Yeah.
the Majestic View show. That's why we individually, been a part of media. We see the power of sharing stories. And so
Yes.
how have you been able to really just kind of intertwine your experiences in the media to also with what you're doing now beyond, yoga, but what's Pamela D Marshall like in the day on a day-to-day basis now?
Well, the work in the media takes you, as you well know, to many different topics, many different arenas where you are interacting with people and having had an opportunity to cover political events, elections, um, the legislature, where public policies are being implemented, where they're being voted on and then implemented, has opened my eyes to some of the things that are happening, still happening with us as a people, that is so public policy based. Even as we look at this drive to remove African American history from our schools, well, I quite frankly feel like you were not doing a great job teaching it anyway. But this should be a wake up call to all people of color, as well as other people who want to share the truth. We have buildings of worship that may only have activities in them twice a week or 3 times a week. At some point, these buildings need to be open and we can read now. We can tell our own history. You don't need anybody to tell you Black or the struggles of Black people. And even when you talked about releasing the trauma of stuff that happened to us when we were children. As African Americans, because we don't know all of our struggles, we're also carrying ancestral trauma because they've done the studies, they've done research on the DNA of fear. You're in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, one of the cities that's been highlighted about Black Wall Street being burned down. Well, during that same time, they burned down over 200 cities across the country where Black people were thriving, and that we are just getting this little bitty taste of what happened, and not minimizing what happened in Tulsa because it was significant. But that significance took place all across the country. It was named Bloody Summer because they were killing so many Black people. Now, as this is Black Business Awareness Month, we need to be talking about why some Black businesses don't make it. And are you carrying some DNA of fear that I finally got some hogs and some cows, but somebody white gonna come by and put poison in the feed trough and kill all your livestock? That happened. That happened. So as we are, the concern about, I don't want to get, as Dick Gregory said, the bigots in the South don't care about you living close to them because, Black folks lived in the house and in the backyard during slavery. So white folks don't care about you living close to them in the South, but you better not get bigger. In the North, they don't want you in their neighborhoods. You can build in your neighborhoods, but they don't want you in their neighborhoods. Dr. Martin Luther King said when he went to Chicago, it was the most segregated city that he had ever gone to. And this was North. So the reality is racism has not gone anywhere in America, and it has been heightened over the last few years with what we all have seen. We can point fingers at Donald Trump. Let's not point too many fingers at Donald Trump because there's 74 million fellow Americans who believe in the rhetoric and still don't see us as humans. So where is this going to change? Even as we're looking at, we talk about the pipeline to the prisons, but what are we doing to change the public policy about it? That's where that's going to have to change. How, if we have thousands, millions of Black people who have either been to prison or on probation, let me tell you something, my sister, we need to be activating those people to teach them how to activate their families to get registered to vote. Because public policy and electing people who are making the decisions is where we're going to see the change. We can talk about the president of the United States and we get excited and we go vote for the president, but the real policies are judges, school board members, city council, county commission, state representatives, those elected officials, the senators and the congressmen. We have to pay attention to who these people are. And then we have to be prepared to cultivate and support those who are running for those positions.
Speaking of those who are running for those positions, I love the passion. I hear your passion through and through. And we're also halfway through the Majestic View show. So if you are not already, subscribing to the YouTube or connecting with Pamela D. Marshall on social media, do that, because Pamela D. Marshall got something coming up, like you can hear the passion in that. And so Pamela, what do you have coming up? What action are you about to take to really make that difference in the heart of Florida?
Well, my son is in jail. My son is in jail, and I am operating from the word that says what the devil meant for evil, God meant it for good. I have always thought about, not always, but over the years, I've thought about what can I do to help change this system that's incarcerating people with mental illness, a system that's incarcerating people who really are homeless. Yes, they're trespassing, but think about it, Zakiria. When they emancipated the slaves, and the slaves didn't have anywhere to go, and they were sleeping under trees, and they were sleeping wherever they could find a place to sleep, a law was passed. This is public policy. A law was passed that said that was vagrancy. They were sleeping under the same tree that the Pilgrims slept under. But because they were Black, they used that as, you are breaking the law and we can take you to jail. It started then, and it is continuing now. And the only way that is going to change, if you're going to lock up our children, then Black women ought to be sheriff. And I hope that I can inspire other women across this country to sit in that seat. And someone asked me once, do you have any law enforcement experience? No, I do not. Neither does the President of the United States. And he's the commander-in-chief of all 4 branches of the military, and can call up the National Guard, and can call the governor and activate the sheriff's department if he so chooses. And he does not have law enforcement experience. What I do have is a clear understanding of corporate strategy and public policy. We have got to stop running law enforcement from the just lock them up, because we can't handcuff ourselves out of the problems that we're facing today. If law enforcement is not part of the prevention, then we have a system that is set up to continue to fill up jail cells and put our young men and women on a probation system that is a surefire way for them to return.
I love that. Yep. And that's really all it takes, is for one mother to really just be able to continue to have something that will light them up. Once Black women start, we don't stop.
We don't stop.
No, we
We
don't.
don't stop. We don't stop. Hey, and there was I think her name was Deborah Hill. I can't think of her. I wish she wrote a book about the insurrections of African-American women. Her great-grandmother would tell her stories about what Black women did during slavery, and she started looking into it. And so she's written this book. And when I got her book, let me tell you, I was like, now this makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
How can you be as passionate as you are, and I be as passionate as I am, if our mothers were docile? but they want you to think that. And that's why we didn't hear the story. So in her research of looking at the insurance papers from Lords of London, which insured these ships, Wells Fargo, who insured these ships. I think that's one of the banks that went back that far. But Lords of London, definitely. She was able to find the records of slave women who overthrew ships and the cargo was lost because they took over the ships. Did you see that in your 4th grade history book?
No, of course not.
So please take all the Black history books out of school and let us start telling our own history to each other.
Absolutely. And speaking of telling our own stories, where can we find your story? I'm about to also I know one of the places is I'm about to share the screen, but while I'm sharing the screen, where can people find out more about your story?
My website is PamelaDMarshall.com, but also The Art of Forgiveness is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. But in order to get an autographed copy, you can go to my website. Can you pull that one up? PamelaDMarshall.com. You can go to my website and I will autograph the book and mail it to you. There we go. So you can go to PamelaDMarshall.com and feel free to email me at PamelaDMarshall247@gmail.com.
Got it. And we'll be sure to leave that in the comment as well, so that you can be sure to get the book. And if no one else got anything else from this conversation, what is the one takeaway you want people to take away when it comes to their own healing journey and story?
I also am in day 15 of COVID. So COVID is still, and there's a new surge. Our health and wellness, physically, mentally, and spiritually, is in our hands. One of the drawings in the book, because I did art in the book, and I'm actually wearing the designs from one of my drawings that I'm now getting printed on clothes. And that's the other thing that I see this work. I had no idea that this was something that I even had an interest in doing. So the one thing is to understand, even during COVID, places of worship was shut down. So if your only connection with the higher power is because you go in a building, I'm going to invite you to seek your own spiritual practice so that you can be in charge of your spirit person, your physical health. If what you're eating is causing you to be sick, if you look at your plate and you know good and confident well that this is not going to help you to live, then you are committing suicide with your plate. Just as this, the energy of unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is spiritual suicide. The beauty of what the Creator has for us was set in motion before you even came here. And now that you're here, it's as if the Prince of Darkness is saying, I know you made them in your likeness. I know you've given them the gift of peace, but watch me, I can take them from you. So when we give in to all of those negative things, whether it's the food, whether it is the negative conversations and holding on to negative emotions, and I hope you will get the book so you can understand that we can't prevent people from doing anything. And there are a lot of hurting people who do hurtful, spiteful things. But you are responsible for loving anyway. And I didn't understand when people would say, don't take it personal. Yeah, but it's being done to me. No, you just happen to be standing there. Because I guarantee you, people are who they are. And whatever they did to you, they've done it to somebody else. And once you get the courage to move out of their way, they're going to do it to somebody else. So it's in your hand. As a matter of fact, That's the name of my book tour. It is in your hand. And it is the name of one of the drawings in the book. And I would draw my hand and put designs in my hand. And just when this all happens afterwards, because when I start drawing, I don't know what I'm going to draw. And I just saw a key on my desk. I drew a heart, then I drew the key in the hand. And the key to this journey is in our heart, and it is in our hands. We are 100% responsible. And so understanding that we are, then you tap into the greatness that you were sent here to be. So is that one thing or a bunch of things?
That's 11, but that would.
But the main thing is it's in your head. And how do you get there? There are people who work with you. There are coaches. There's stuff you can read. By George, there's stuff on YouTube. You can about get a law degree on YouTube today, because they have all the courses on there. You may not get the official law degree, but you can sit through all kinds of classes on YouTube today. So I also have a coaching class. It is a Peace and Healing Through Forgiveness. And every second Tuesday of the month, we have a reading circle. We have a reading circle where we are reading the book together and we discuss it. And I'm also in the process of recording The Art of Forgiveness on audio.
Great. And Pamela D. Marshall is your go-to, especially when it comes to just being present. I think what happened is we were so caught up in all of the technology things in the pandemic that now we don't know how to act. And so, you know, being able to just be present is super important. And once you're present, then yes, you can be able to authentically and wholly tell your story. And that's what I heard. That's what I'm going to continue to raise the bar on, and making sure that, you know, we are mindful about what we put in our bodies, so that, you know, hurt people are no longer hurting people. And so that's my majestic view from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Where's your majestic view from again, Pamela?
Do I have time to say one more thing? During my COVID recovery, I've been sitting outside almost all day. And you know what it reminded me of is how Black women in the community used to be out on their porches or in the country sitting under a tree. Do you know that those women would sit under the tree? They didn't realize that they were inhaling the chemicals from the leaves that was healing, the fresh air, the wind that was healing for them. And I was like, I wish we could return to us just sitting under the tree. They would talk each other through their challenges, and then they would go back and do it again. So from under the tree, go outside and connect with the beauty of where you came from. You came from that dirt. This morning, I went and took a walk in the dew with no shoes on, because I wanted to connect. I was like, I need to be healed. I got to get out here and let the earth touch me, so that I can get rid of this virus that's in my body, so that I can continue on the journey. So, raising the bar from under the tree in Gainesville, Florida, I'm Pamela Marshall. Peace and healing through forgiveness.
And we'll see you next time on the Majestic View Show.
Thank you.